Right, so today's video we're going to be taking a look at and rating, not ranking, rating every track in Disney Speedstorm. The reason why I'm rating and not ranking tier list style is because A, I want to show off a little bit of the gameplay. B, I just feel like doing this is a bit more of a chill video where we just chat and then give a rating for the track when it's over. So I'm only gonna do one lap of each track, obviously, because otherwise the video is gonna be like an hour long. I don't want to upload an hour-long video again. I've uploaded several hour-long videos. None of them have done well. So we're gonna jump straight into it with the castle. I'm gonna do the longest version of each track. CPU level medium, speed fast. Yeah.
Hey, oh, we gonna do this?
Because this is the castle. I'm gonna do it as. Oh, these are all regulated, so it doesn't matter. I'll do it as Beast.
All right.
All right, just remember 10 and 2.
Playtime is over.
There's nothing you can do to stop me.
But yeah, the castle overall, I think, is a fine track. Like, it's exactly what you think of when you think of, like, a middle-of-the-road Disney Speedstorm track. It's very obvious that this was one of the first tracks to come out. I feel like it would have been nice to go through a bit of France as well, because it's a little weird to have the Beauty and the Beast track be shrunk down, or for racers to be shrunk down in the Beauty and the Beast track, because that's not what happens in the movie. Yes, there's a lot of like talking furniture and talking like lamps and stuff, but they're the size of lamps, and the characters are the size of what you would think. So for a theming point of view, it doesn't really make sense in the way of, yeah, they kind of had to shrink you down to make the castle big enough to be a track, but also the castle was made big enough in Kingdom Hearts 2 without needing to shrink down Sora, Donald, or Goofy. So yeah, I find the theming of it a little bit weird. The soundtrack of the track is good. Just personally, in my opinion, it's a good soundtrack because it's based off of a good soundtrack. It's just like techno remixes of a good soundtrack. So I think overall, I'm gonna give it like a 6. I'll give it like a 6. I don't think it's necessarily. I can't give it below a 5. I can't give it that much higher than a 5. I think a 6 is the fairest to go, because I think there's a lot more tracks in the game that are a lot better, and a lot more visually interesting, and there's a lot more going on. But there is a decent amount of stuff to avoid. But as far as the theming of it, I don't really get why we're shrunk down. But that's a minor detail. As a track, it's fun. It's a fun one, and it was one of the better ones when the game released. Were they going to talk about A Pirate's Life? We'll go through this one. Why not?
I will do my best.
Players a little this one. This, I think, it's the most annoying track in the game. Still, even now.
Should be interesting.
And it's all because of those. It's all because of those tentacles. It makes it more engaging, and especially at launch, I think this was my favourite track at launch. And I still think when they add Davy Jones, just making the Kraken his ultimate skill, or his unique skill, just to be able to plonk the Kraken in any track in the game would be so fun. But yeah, I like the amount of variety in the actual track layout. You're going through ships, you're going through a port town area, you're being attacked by a Kraken as well, and there's cannons going off and everything. There's a lot to like about this, and also the soundtrack is pretty good as well. Yo ho, yo ho, it's A Pirate's Life for me. I'm gonna give this a 7. Again, I think it was one of the strongest when the game first launched. It's still extremely fun, and I always get excited when it shows up during ranked. There are a lot of variations of Agrabah.
Hang the code and hang the rules. I'm a pirate.
The seas are mine.
Our hero's only as good as his lap.
You can trust me.
Will be Aladdin,
Here goes.
as we should be. It's his movie, it's his track.
Time to go to work.
Nice upholstery on this chariot.
Somebody call for a diamond in the rough.
I think I said this around when the Aladdin season came out. This track feels, or at the time felt, the most like a Mario Kart track. Or at least a Mario Kart track from the Mario Karts that I've played, which is the Wii one. And by that I mean the one on the Wii, not the Scottish one. But yeah, I like this track a fair bit. I also really like the soundtrack to the Aladdin movie, so adding a bit of a dubstep twang to it. No one has said dubstep or twang in the same sentence before, but adding a little bit of a dubstep like kick to it does make it pop a little bit more. I think I'd rather just listen to A Whole New World, just in general, but still, the game's version of it and the game's like remix of it is fun, and I like going through the Cave of Wonders the animation of like the mouth of the cave moving and opening when you go through it does a lot for me. It's a track with a decent amount of shortcuts. I didn't get to showcase them there, but it does have a decent amount of shortcuts, a lot of grind rails that make it a lot of fun. Agrabah gets an 8 for me. The silver screen. 9. I think this.
A perfect day for a race.
Ice is my life.
Okay, Pete. This was when the game launched. This was everyone's favorite track, and for me personally, I like a lot of it. I like that we start in like a cinema, and then we literally blast through the screen. That does a lot for me. But I think it doesn't go far enough. I feel like if it made the boost pads black and white, and if it made the power-ups black and white as well, that would go a long way to making the theming of this track a bit more solid. Because at the moment, and it's a small little nitpick, but I don't mind about the colours of the characters. Obviously, if it went all the way to make the characters black and white as well, then that'd be cool as well. But that's a lot of work. I feel like just changing the colours on the boost pads and on the power up things would be a lot easier than changing the colours of every individual character. But that's just me. And also, this isn't Kingdom Hearts. This is Disney Speedstorm. You know, you aren't spending enough time on this track to need to have completely different designs for the characters when they come in. You know, you're not going to have a distinct, different, like, if you're going to do that, make everyone look like a monster in the Monsters Inc. world, give everyone gills in the Atlantica one. You know what I mean? So yeah, the silver screen I think gets a 7 as well. I think it's a really good track, a really fun track, but I think it misses a bit with the theme of it. I think that's a lot of the things with the launch tracks, is they're all fine, but I think they could all be improved by going a little bit harder on the theming of it. We next have Mount Olympus.
My only goal is to
Remember, a hero's only as good as his lap time.
Mount Olympus, for me personally, I think
This is where the
is the most boring track in the game. And that's unfortunate because it's based on one of my favourite Disney movies, if not my favourite traditionally animated Disney film. Which is also why I'm a bit disappointed that Hercules didn't get a season. But Hercules has always get a season later on. I don't know what it would be based on. Maybe the animated show, if there's enough characters from the animated show to give him another season. But I think the soundtrack does a lot for this track. But everything else is outside of a decent soundtrack. There's not a lot to this. It's fairly flat. It's fairly straightforward. The only like difference to the actual visuals is the little bit of track that's blue. And I feel like for like very little of the Hercules movie takes place in Mount Olympus. How cool would it have been? And this is why I want a second Hercules track going through the underworld. How cool would that have been? When you've got other tracks that, you know, this one's got the silver screen has the cinema room. Agrabah, you go through the Cave of Wonders. Here you go through the port, and you go through like a sea battle. The castle you don't really go through much different. But how cool would it have been if, and maybe this is something that they're planning on down the line, especially now that Hades is in the game, you add the underworld, an underworld track. I feel like if that comes in, this would rank higher. Where it is right now, it's a 5, and I think I'm being generous just because I like the soundtrack as well. But yeah, it's a 5. And then we go to the Great Wall.
Our hero's only as good as his lap time.
I can look after myself.
Play Shang.
Let you down. I'll teach you some respect.
This track is all in the soundtrack.
This is where the real work begins.
I'll Make a Man Out of You is the best Disney song ever. So I think having that is where all of the points will go. All of the points go into the soundtrack. The track itself is fine, but it's a launch track, so it's gonna be a bit more generic than later tracks that we do. But this track it's all soundtrack. There are a few shortcuts to go through. There's grind rails. There's stuff to avoid, as per usual. It's fun to try and go on the speed pads before the columns come down. That's fun. And there's a decent the track's pretty. The track is pretty, but it's all in the soundtrack. If it was a different song from the movie and not I'll Make a Man Out of You, this would be a 5. But as it stands, it's a 7, because I'll Make a Man Out of You is worth 2 points. We've got Jungle Ruins. Jungle Ruins. Jungle Ruins. It's the jungle, and it's the ruins.
Swift and agile. What do you want?
We'll play as Mowgli. Mowgli got buffed recently.
May the best monster win. Switching to pursuit mode.
Oh, I'll never give up.
I think this is the prettiest launch track. It's the best looking launch track, and I am very biased towards jungle environments, especially in racing games. This just is right up my street. So this for me is one of the better launch tracks. What lets it down is the soundtrack. I don't think the soundtrack is great.
If Baloo saw me, he'd be real proud.
Yeah, I think as far as the Jungle Ruins is concerned, it's a fine track. But it's nothing super special. I just think it's pretty more than anything. It's not necessarily fun to race on, but it's pretty. And for that, I'll give it a 6. When I have the factory.
Nothing scares me.
Remember, a hero's only as good.
Hermes has
We'll
nothing
play as Sully. The factory is the it's the first seasonal track,
I'm gonna win this.
and I think that shows because I feel like they could have gone a lot more interesting with. They could have got a lot more interesting with the actual layout and design for a Monsters Inc. track. Like, there's very little of the actual there's very little, like, differentiation in track layout. There's very little of, like, the actual doors. There could have been a section that was all grind rails, just going through the doors. I just feel like they could have done a lot more with this track. Going through the snowy, like, tundra area. It's not the Himalayas. It's like the factory with snow on it. But going through that is like a decent change of pace. But I think it's just a bit of a boring track. So yeah, 5. And also, the song that they chose for it isn't great. Toon Village.
Trust me, I'm a man. You won't be disappointed.
We'll play as Mickey. Because of course we will. This is the most generic. This is like the Luigi circuit, the Mario circuit, the Peaches circuit. That's what this is, but I feel like it's more in depth than that, but not by much. Again, it looks pretty, but that's about all it's going for, all it's got going for it. It's also not a village. It's also just straight up not a village. It's a city. This is Toon City. You've got a theater. You've got a freaking highway or motorway if you're from the UK, which I am. So I don't know why I didn't say motorway first. Yeah, this is a city. It's not a village. So the actual name of the track is wrong. I feel like it should have been either called Toontown or Toon City, not Toon Village, because that's just a lie. But yeah, overall, I think it gets a 5. It's very middle of the road. It's not deserving of anything lower than a 5, but it's not deserving of anything higher. Then I have Andy's Room. .55.
Mickey Mouse, at your service.
I'll hit every curve.
Plays Jesse. Freaking demented character model.
Kinda wish I brought my lucky
This has a great soundtrack, great theming. It looks the part, it sounds the part. For the longest time, this was a lot of people's, including my favorite track. Like when this came out, when this track came to the game, it was a genuine showcase of what Gameloft could do with track design. And I think it still works like that. Like, this was the first one that was like, this is a competitor. This is a... Like, this stands with some Mario Kart tracks. Obviously, it's no Rainbow Road, and the game doesn't have a... The game doesn't have, like, a Rainbow Road equivalent yet. I don't even know what would be. I think personally it should have been the Wreck-It Ralph track, but you'll see what happened to the Wreck-It Ralph track. I won't divulge too far into my opinions on the Wreck-It Ralph track, but I'd just say I don't like it.
Don't worry.
Arendelle,
Hoist the colors.
My only goal is to
there's Christoph. Arendelle would be a 7 if it wasn't for the fact that it forces you to listen to either Do You Want to Build a Snowman? There we go. It forces you to listen to either Do You Want to Build a Snowman or friggin' what's it called? Let It Go. And those are two of the... I don't even think they're bad. Do You Want to Build a Snowman? Objectively bad.
I could use a lift.
But Let It Go, it's well sung. To be fair, a decent remix in this, but it's so overplayed, and I've heard it 3 million times now. You hear a song 3 million times.
A little help here.
Yeah, you hear a song like 1 million times, you're gonna get annoyed of it, you're gonna get sick of it. I think the overall design of the track, again, it feels like a Mario Kart track. like general Ice Kingdom, it's fine. It's a fine track. But when the soundtrack is something that you actively don't want to listen to, it puts it down. Arendelle gets a 6 for me. We then have Arby's Arena. Is there one that's actually... There we go, 1.5.
Reindeers are better than people, but I'm close. Hang on.
Arby's Arena. Who makes the most sense to be in Arby's Arena?
You know I'm a professional racer, right?
Wally, because he a robot. Arby's Arena is the generic, like... This is a track. It's in the game. I'm not even gonna bother with like talking about this too much. What I will say, one of the songs that can be play during this track is Kingdom Hearts level of good. Kingdom Hearts level of like, holy crap, what is this? It's like this version's equivalent of Simple and Clean. That being said, the track is incredibly short. There's not much in it. It's a tech demo, basically. It's just like, we're gonna put things in here, we're gonna see how they work, and then we'll see if we can implement stuff from Arby's Arena. If players take a look at Arby's Arena and they think it looks fun, they think that is a fun like mechanic or obstacle, then we'll take it over to an actual track and we'll try and implement it into an actual track. Gameloft have been talking about having a variation of Arby's Arena with like a loop-de-loop in it, like a 360 loop. That hasn't been put in the game yet. And also, the track design looks like a penis. Apologies for any younger viewers. But yeah, the actual like track, if you look at a layout of map of this, it's a penis. It's straight up just a penis. And if I would rate these all by how much they look like penises, this would be a 10. But that's not what I'm doing. I'm doing a ranking of how fun the track is. If we're rating how fun the track is, this is a 3. I'm sorry, Arby's Arena, but this is a 3. Kawaii.
It's time I took matters into my own tent.
I've flown a magic carpet.
I'm about to revolutionize.
I race like I fall. With swift and agile.
My name, Stitch.
Okay, Stitch, we'll take you into Kawaii.
Don't expect me to go easy on
I don't like this track.
Read about this vehicle.
All of the races that I like, i.e. the heavy ones, do really badly here. The thing that saves this track from being a 4 is A, it's pretty, and B, the soundtrack. This track has a really good soundtrack, and I think Lilo and Stitch as a movie has a really underrated soundtrack. Unfortunately, they couldn't put any of the Elvis songs in this, for obvious reasons. The same reason why Shut Up and Drive isn't in this. But there's just a chill vibe to the soundtrack of this track. And if some of the turns weren't as BS as they were, I'll take second on that. If some of the turns weren't as... If the corners were a bit more forgiving for the low handling characters that I love, if it was a bit nicer to characters like Sully, characters like Genie, characters like Beast, you know, my mains, then I would rank it higher. But I think as it stands right now, it's a 6. It's a pretty track, but it's very, like, it's just like, do you want to have fun? Well, fuck you. You can't have fun. We then have Atlantica. I'm just gonna... I'll play as King Triton. I won't play as Ariel because I've got to scroll down for Ariel.
Time to show 'em what I got.
I will make my family proud.
You know, I'm rather looking forward to this.
I'm just gonna spoil... Atlantica is my favourite track in the game. I don't think the soundtrack is that great, but the track itself is so good. There is so much to like about this track. It's the most open, and I thought this was gonna be like a... I thought this was gonna be like a new breadth of a life into the game. Of like, oh, that's what you're doing for tracks in the future. Unfortunately, the 2 tracks come up after this aren't nearly as expansive or as visually interesting as this. I don't know, the current one, the Inside Out one, is, I'd say, back to this level. But Atlantica's the first track that's actively made me go, wow. Going underwater and having that actually affect how your car moves. Also having it have like weird Mega Man physics where water actually makes you jump higher. I feel like that adds a lot to a race. I feel like I just like how open it is and how there's so many, like, options with Atlantica. And it favours a heavier character. So yeah, Atlantica for me gets a 9. There are no 10s. There are no 10s yet. We'll have to see what comes out with the next couple seasons. We've got obviously Halloween Town coming out, and I assume we're gonna have another Pirates of the Caribbean track, which I think I'm not hungry for more Pirates of the Caribbean. I would rather a mid-season thing get another track, like maybe Muppets. Muppets would be very similar. I feel Muppets would be very similar to Silver Screen. Instead of a cinema, it'd be a theater. I'd love to see WALL-E. I think WALL-E is the other kind of place where we could see a Rainbow Road style, or maybe like Rainbow Road in difficulty level track. I personally just want to see that. We're gonna go to the Candy Kingdom next. Candy Kingdom has the longest track in the game. Unless if Riley's Mind has a longer one.
Let's get out of here and see the... Oh, I'm ready to do some serious...
They don't call me Sheriff Speedy.
This is gonna be...
I'm going over to Ralph. I'm not playing as Vanellope.
We've got some driving to do.
I'll play as Ralph. Because he's the only Wreck-It Ralph character I like.
Oh, I am gonna win a medal.
I'm very disappointed with the Wreck-It Ralph track. The fact that it's just Sugar Rush. I expected so much more, especially after Atlantica. I thought we were gonna go through different games. Like we're gonna have a section of the track that's Hero's Duty. We're gonna have a section of the track that is the actual Wreck-It Ralph game. We're gonna have sections of the tracks that are like the on the cables connecting each game. It also would have been a great place to have some Easter eggs for other video game characters. To have a section of the track that looked 8-bit. There's a lot of stuff here that's just very... I feel like this track was just a massive missed opportunity. A lot like Season 7 as a whole. Season 7 was just the missed opportunity season. Vanellope was disappointing. The amount of monetization was disappointing. King Candy is terrible. Still. The only good thing to come out of Season 7 was Ralph himself. But yeah, I wish this track was something completely different. And judging the track that's in the game, it's very generic. Again, it feels like a Mario Kart track, but it feels like one of the worst Mario Kart tracks. It's just very... It's just there. Having the Owl City song as one of the songs on the soundtrack, that's fine. I mean, I like that song. But yeah, as a whole, Candy Kingdom is the most disappointing track in the game for me, personally. And with that being said, I give this a 4. I'm sorry, fans of the Wreck-It Ralph track. It's a 4 for me. And then we've got Riley's Mind, the newest track in the game. The only Inside Out character I have at the moment is Fear, unfortunately. Disgust is just impossible to get for me. My drop rate on Disgust shards has been horrendously bad. I think this is a return to form for Disney Speedstorm. It's not quite as expansive and open as Atlantica is, but I don't think it needs to be. What I do think and what I do like, just the amount of variation in areas and the actual track design. It feels like you're going through a movie set, and again, I don't know if that's what the movie is, but it does feel like I just seen that tower in the distance. The train going this section reminding me of Toy Story 3. This is great track design. It's not my personal favorite. I feel like if you've got attachment to Inside Out, this would make a lot more sense to you. But to me, it's just a great track. I just judge it as like a great track. And that's all of the tracks in Disney Speedstorm. Riley's Mind, I give it an 8. The amount of visual, the amount of like different biomes, different areas, different visuals that the track has. The amount of different like areas that you go to. It's the only track in the game that feels like a genuine like journey through the movie. So yeah, I'll give this an 8. It's up there with like some of the best. It's the second best track in the game in my opinion. And I feel like it's not recency bias either. It genuinely does feel more... It does feel genuinely more like special. And it felt like there's a lot of care that went into that track. Maybe because they want to sell Gameloft wants to sell the new Inside Out movie, but I don't know. That's why they put their A game into this season in particular and that track. But I don't know. But anyways, the best tracks in the game: Riley's Mind, Antarctica, and probably the Toy Box as well. The Toy Story track. Those are probably the top 3 tracks in the game. Worst track in the game for me, obviously Arby's Arena, but I'd probably say Candy Kingdom. Just personally, a massive disappointment as far as tracks are concerned for me. I just really don't get on with it. I wanted so much more from Wreck-It Ralph, because it's such a unique movie that to turn it into such a generic track is, I think, almost insulting, especially surrounding everything else surrounding Season 7. It's just the lowest point of the game, I think, where they kind of... It just lacks a lot of creativity, for me, personally. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what your favourite track in Disney Speedstorm is. I would love to know if anyone differs from me. If you don't like Atlantica, if you do like Candy Kingdom for whatever reason, let me know. I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Peace.